In this series, there are 3 videos. In video 1, I discuss restatement of the text. In video 2, I will be discussing a level 2 response, which is description. We're using this article from the Guardian newspaper entitled, "Yes, We Are Judged on Our Accents" by Hannah Jane Parkinson. The article is about 4 pages long. You can access it online, theguardian.com. As a review of video number 1, it's about level 1 response. Level 1 response is just to restate what the article is about. So in a level 1 response, you'll cover things like the title, the author, date, and the source. Okay? Topic and content. Then you'll be using pretty much paraphrasing the content, and summarize the main points. That's a level 1 response. A level 2 response is where you state how. It's a description. How is the topic and content presented? What rhetorical devices are used? What are the effects on the reader? So in a level 2 response, this is the area where you are no longer just paraphrasing, but you are citing. You will definitely cite and reference the text. Okay, so you're going to be using quotes from the text in order to provide evidence to support your description. As it says here, you'll be using rhetorical devices. So, in the level 2 response, this is where you get to say that the writer used something like light humor as their tone, and then provide evidence from the text. This is where you can say that the author used puns or hyperbole or metaphor or any other figures of speech that you identified. But you don't just say the writer used pun, hyperbole, metaphor. You need to identify and then state what are the effects on the reader. It's not okay to just list all the rhetorical devices. That's not going to get you full credit. All right, so for this exercise, you need to state what are they and what are the effects of these rhetorical devices on the reader. All right. Also, other things you can identify and comment on: colloquial phrases being used, idioms. All right, informal speech or informal diction. Okay. You can comment on things like the ethos, pathos, and logos. All right, does this article have any appeal to authority, ethos, or appeal to emotion, pathos, or appeal to logos, appeal to logic, logos? All right. In this section, you would also say, if this article, what is the purpose? All right, to compare and contrast. Actually, purpose is going to be about 3 things: either to explain, to resolve, or to persuade. Okay, although this article may have elements of all 3, there's going to be some explanation, there's going to be some persuasion, but overall, the writer is identifying a problem and suggesting a resolution to this problem. This will be identified and explained in a level 2 response. Also, you can mention allusions. Does the author make use of any allusions? Which is another rhetorical device. Is the author being defensive and defending their position or stance? Is the author comparing and contrasting? Again, it's something else that you can use in your level 2 response. So, a level 2 response sentence would be something along the lines of this. By using examples of Margaret Thatcher and Sherry Blair, along with her experience of being mocked due to her accented Russian, she shows the contrasting attitudes concerning accents locally, regionally, and globally. So that's a description of the article, what she's doing, the rhetorical devices that she's using, her tone, and her main message. It kind of the main idea behind or the effect she's trying to create. Now, is there any proof? Where would I find that in the article? I'd have to identify the areas where Margaret Thatcher or high-profile individuals are being referenced, and then sort of organize this information by categorizing it and chunking it together. So this entire area is an anecdote, and she's also using an anecdote here, and these anecdotes are used to illustrate her negative experiences of being judged for having a Liverpool accent. Okay, so there is evidence in the text to support this description. Another level 2 sentence would be something along the lines of, the article identified a common bias and prejudice that deeply affects people's lives socially, academically, and professionally. And again, I would have to go through the article and talk about how the author introduces the topic in the title, how rhetorical questions are also used to further develop the topic and communicate the gist, how appeal to authority and use of reference of high profile characters are used to illustrate the two sides of this debate. And then I'll go into the application to university and her negative experience there. And I'll reference, furthermore, her interview with Guardian and how it was successful. So here you have the academic life and the professional life. And then further on, social life when in London. Also, you'll notice that in the article, the writer, in order to illustrate how widespread this judgment and prejudice is, she talks about the experience not just Liverpool, but London, and then Russia. So there is evidence to support the description. Okay. Another acceptable approach to giving a level 2 response would be to go through the article or text section by section, describing the rhetorical devices and effects that they have. So You can start by talking about the rhetorical questions and the introduction used to illustrate the topic. Also, you can talk about the reference to Fisher-Price stethoscope and should parents take surgical scalpels to slice out extraneous consonants. This is a metaphor, all right, but it's also an extreme metaphor, which is hyperbole. In order to illustrate just how extreme this issue is, she then transitions on to discussing a high-profile individual, Esther McVeigh and Margaret Thatcher. This is the use of appeal to authority, gives the readers a sense of how significant this topic is and the type of effects that it has in real life. The next section starts here, where she goes into her personal anecdotes, her personal experiences. Her anecdotes help to illustrate both the negative and positive reactions that she's experienced, and sort of how mixed and complicated this issue is. So these are the devices, and the effect is an illustration of how mixed and complicated. It's not black and white. It's a lot of gray, a lot of differences of opinions concerning this topic. She then goes on to give more examples of her personal experience in Liverpool, London, and Russia to illustrate that this phenomenon is local and regional and global. And then the final section is going to be her conclusion. It's like a informal discussion. I say that the tone is informal because of the expressions such as pinned down. Pinned down is informal. I also say that it's in sort of informal discussion because of this use of simile, that her vowels slide around like a calf on ice. It's almost use of humor, a humorous simile. But although she's using a lot of informal expressions and humor and sarcasm, she still gives a very honest confession and her true thoughts on this topic, and concludes by saying tomato, tomato. I honestly don't care. In fact, I don't even really like tomatoes. However, they're pronounced. Let's definitely call the whole thing off. So a description of this article could be that the author uses rhetorical questions to hook the reader, transitions into referencing high-profile individuals to illustrate how significant and serious this topic is. Then she offers some anecdotes to illustrate how or in what areas and aspects of life being judged by your accent can affect, such as academically, professionally, and socially. Another anecdote to illustrate how widespread this prejudice is. And then her final opinion, which is suggesting readers to disregard such a factor as accent in terms of judging people's self-worth. And as you're given this description, you will need to cite and reference the text. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. And if you are interested in level 1, go back and watch the first video of this series. If you're interested in level 3 response, that's going to be addressed in video number 3.